Hi, my name is Mike, and this is a Q&A to the UF Pro Pros Guide to Special Forces Assessment and Selection. There were a couple of questions that were asked, and I'm trying to work through them with a couple of videos. So this is the first one. It's about burpees. Do I consider them a good exercise? And if yes, why not? Yeah. So first of all, when we talk about burpees, let's define what a burpee is in this context. Now for me in this context, a burpee is you start in a standing position, you get down flat on the ground into the prone position, and then you get back up to standing. I don't care if you do a little jump in the end and clap your hands overhead. That doesn't really have any influence on the effectiveness of the exercise. Let's talk about some of the advantages that the burpee has as an exercise. Now, if you're doing it correctly, you will hit several movement categories. There'll be the squat, a hinge, a horizontal push, and there's core training. That's because you can use quite a lot of tension if you're doing it correctly. Depending on how you do the burpee, you can use explosive strength, reactive strength, muscular endurance, and you can hit almost any energy system. The burpee is also upscalable basically infinitely to any strength level, and you need very little space to perform it and no equipment. Where does the burpee get its bad reputation? Now that's probably because a lot of coaches like to use the burpee as a finisher exercise if they really want to crush people. There's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, it's a little safer to use a burpee because it doesn't use any external equipment. Also, you can use it on anyone because you don't really need a lot of technique. You can just flop down on the ground and wiggle your way somehow back up to a standing position. That means everybody can do it pretty much until they drop down from exhaustion. You can always do another burpee. Now, what's so bad about using the burpee that way? First of all, you're programming your body to use crappy technique. The second point is, even though you are less likely to injure yourself compared to using an exercise with an external weight, you're still increasing your risk for injury compared to if you would be doing an exercise with proper form. And because of that, there are better ways to train your mental game. So in general, the burpee is a good exercise, but you can make it even better by tweaking it a little. If you're preparing for selection or already are in a field where you might be required to get flat on your belly and back up multiple times in a hurry, you might want to adjust the burpee so that it mimics the movement that you actually will be doing. Which means if you're usually running around with equipment on and a rifle in your hand, then you will only have one free hand and you need quite a lot of strength compared to doing it, in your gym shorts. So while the sentence "train as you fight" sometimes gets a bad rap, I think it's quite appropriate in this case. Because if you're training, the technique mimics the way you're fighting the technique, then every repetition you do in the gym to increase your strength and your endurance, for example, will also increase your technical performance on the battlefield. And I think that is something that is very underrated nowadays in the training community. Under stress, you will always default to the movement that you've done most often because your nervous system is geared that way. So if you are usually doing burpees the old school way to get flat on the ground, that might actually interfere with you getting flat on the ground with a weapon in hand. If you look at, let's say, someone who does 45 minutes of burpees as an endurance builder, he will do, let's say, 500 in one training session. Now, in 10 training sessions, he's already got 5,000 repetitions. In 20 training sessions, he's up to 10,000. So 10,000 is the point where, literature says it becomes subconscious. Now imagine that person would have done like one armed get down to the ground and back ups for 10,000 repetitions. He would still get the endurance benefit and the strength benefit from the training, but he would also have already made that movement subconscious. And obviously it would be much more fluid under stress. This is a general principle that I like to use. I always want to find movements that I use in real life and try to use those movements or movements that are very similar to that or parts of those movements in my training. Because why do you want to do thousands of repetitions that you will only use in the gym if you could also use a similar movement but one that you use in real life as well? This is actually a whole training concept. If you look at progressive overload does not only mean weight, increasing weight every time, although most people just look at it as weight increase, but it's also increasing the complexity of your movements as soon as you are comfortable with a certain complexity, because your brain wants to grow as well. In the end, that's what training is all about. You do something until you get good at it, and then you make it harder. So training never gets easier, you just get better. I tried to keep this fairly short, but if you have any additional question or want me to elaborate on something, just write it in the comments. If you got anything out of this video, follow the channel, give me a like, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.